The unexpected demand. The sky above Earth was quiet, as if the world itself was holding its breath. For centuries, humans had looked to the stars, wondering if other life existed. Most thought that the vastness of space would keep them safe from any threats. Earth was small, tucked away in a far corner of the universe. But that peace was about to be shattered. One clear morning, something changed. An enormous fleet of alien ships appeared, hovering just outside Earth's atmosphere. They were unlike anything humanity had ever seen. The ships were sleek, metallic, and covered in strange symbols that no one could understand. They didn't make a sound, but their presence was deafening. Across the world, the news spread like wildfire. Governments scrambled to make sense of the situation. People stood in awe and fear, unsure of what was coming next. The ships didn't seem to be attacking, but their size and power were undeniable. It was a moment of silence, a silence that felt heavier with each passing second. Captain John Riley sat in a control room deep within a military base, his eyes glued to the massive screens in front of him. He was a man of few words, but his mind was racing. His thoughts were interrupted by the sharp sound of an incoming transmission. It was a message, broadcast to every corner of the globe. The voice was calm, almost soothing, but it carried with it a sense of power that made Riley's skin crawl. "We are the Galactic Empire," the voice said, echoing through the speakers. "We have come to claim your world. Earth is now under our control. Surrender immediately, and we will spare your lives. Resistance will be met with destruction." The words sent a shockwave through the room. Riley's fingers tightened around the edge of the table. Earth, a world of billions, was being threatened by an unknown force. He had prepared for many scenarios, but this one was different. The message was clear. The aliens wanted Earth to submit, and they were not asking. They were demanding. Around him, the officers and soldiers in the room exchanged uncertain glances. No one spoke. No one moved. It was as if the weight of the moment had frozen them in place. "This can't be real," whispered Lieutenant Sarah Wells, one of the young officers. "There's no way. They can't just demand our surrender like that." Riley took a deep breath, his mind racing as he tried to think of a response. He had been trained for crisis situations, but nothing had prepared him for this. The Galactic Empire, who were they? Why had they chosen Earth? What did they want? The transmission continued. "We will give you 24 hours to comply with our demands. If you do not submit, we will consider it an act of war. Your planet will be destroyed without hesitation." Riley's gaze hardened. "War," he murmured under his breath. For all the strength of the alien fleet, Earth wasn't just going to give in. But what could they do? What kind of weapon could they use to fight back against an enemy with such power? He looked at the other officers in the room, their faces pale with fear and confusion. Everyone knew what this meant. If Earth didn't comply, the aliens would destroy them. But could humanity find a way to fight back? Was there hope, or was this the beginning of the end? Suddenly, Riley's communicator beeped. It was a secure message from the Pentagon. The president was on the line. The urgency in his voice was unmistakable. "Captain Riley," the president said, his voice shaking with tension. "We've never faced anything like this before. We don't have the firepower to take on a fleet like theirs. The choice is simple. We either surrender or we fight. What's your recommendation?" Riley's mind raced as he considered the options. Surrender meant accepting defeat, but fighting back meant risking everything. Humanity wasn't ready for this. There was no way they could stand up to an advanced alien race. But then again, humanity had always been underestimated. From the earliest days, humans had fought back against overwhelming odds. The thought of surrender was unbearable to Riley, but he knew the odds were stacked against them. "Mr. President," he said finally, his voice steady, "we can't surrender. Not without a fight. I don't know what we can do yet, but I won't stand by and let our people be wiped out without trying." The president's voice crackled with uncertainty. "What do we do, Captain?" Riley glanced at the monitors, watching the alien ships silently looming in the sky. They were waiting, but for what? He had no answers, only instincts that told him humanity couldn't just roll over and give up. They had something that the aliens didn't understand, something they couldn't possibly expect. "I don't know yet, sir," Riley replied. "But I think it's time we show them that humanity won't be so easily defeated." With those words, the reality of the situation began to settle in. The demand from the Galactic Empire wasn't just a challenge, it was a test, and Earth's response would determine the future of their world. The next 24 hours would decide everything. Would Earth bow to the alien invaders, or would humanity stand strong in the face of impossible odds? The decision to resist. The countdown had begun. Earth had less than 24 hours to decide. The Galactic Empire's message had been clear: submit or face annihilation. The world had never faced such a threat, and the weight of the decision hung heavy in the air. Captain Riley sat in the darkened war room, his fingers tapping nervously on the edge of the table. Around him, the other officers were deep in discussion. Maps and charts were spread out across the table, but none of them offered a clear answer. The room was filled with tension. No one had a solution, but everyone knew the stakes. "We don't have the firepower to fight them head-on," Lieutenant Wells said, her voice tight with frustration. "Their fleet is massive. We've never encountered anything like this before. How can we possibly win?" Riley leaned back in his chair, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. He had been in countless battles, faced impossible odds before, but this was different. The Galactic Empire wasn't some rogue faction or alien warlord. They were a force of unimaginable power. And yet, Riley's gut told him that surrendering wasn't an option. Earth couldn't just give up. "We don't need to beat them head-on," Riley said, his voice calm yet determined. "We need to find a way to make them understand that we're not a species to be toyed with. That's what they don't get." "What do you mean?" asked Lieutenant Wells, a note of confusion in her voice. "How can we make them understand? They have the power to destroy us with a single command." "I'm not talking about brute force," Riley replied. "I'm talking about showing them that humanity will fight back. We don't need to have the most advanced technology. We just need to be unpredictable. We've survived because we never give up, no matter the odds." There was a long pause as the officers considered Riley's words. The room was quiet, except for the soft hum of machinery and the occasional beep from a monitor. The decision weighed on everyone, but Riley could see that they were starting to come around. Maybe they didn't have the resources, but they had something the aliens didn't: sheer determination. "Sir," Lieutenant Wells spoke up again, "what about the old prototypes? The ones we've kept in storage. Are they still operational?" Riley's eyes narrowed. The prototypes. It had been years since anyone had thought about them. The machines were relics of Earth's past, a time when humans were fighting wars on their own soil. They were designed as a last resort, powerful but imperfect. Some had been abandoned for their instability, but there was one prototype that stood out. "The Beast," Riley said quietly. He hadn't spoken the name in years, and saying it now sent a chill down his spine. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a symbol of humanity's strength and ingenuity, and it could be the key to survival. "The Beast," Wells repeated, her voice a mix of awe and fear. "It was never fully tested, but if it still works—" "It's our only option," Riley said firmly. "We may not have much time, but if we can get it operational again, we may be able to strike back." The officers around the table nodded, some with hesitation, others with renewed resolve. Riley knew they were all thinking the same thing. Could this one prototype really turn the tide? Could humanity's answer to the alien threat come from an ancient machine long thought obsolete? "Get the team ready," Riley ordered. "I want all available personnel working on bringing the Beast online. If we're going to survive, this may be our only shot." As the officers dispersed to carry out their orders, Riley stood, gazing out the window. The alien ships were still there, silent and ominous. They were waiting, watching. The next move would be Earth's, and the world held its breath. Riley turned and made his way down the narrow hallways of the base, the weight of the decision pressing on his shoulders. He knew that this wouldn't be easy. The beast was a prototype, and its power was unpredictable. No one knew for certain if it could even be revived. But it was humanity's only hope. At the hangar, the team was already assembling, ready to work on the beast. Riley stepped forward and surveyed the scene. The massive machine lay dormant, its rusted metal frame a testament to years of neglect. It looked like a monster, a relic of a forgotten era. But to Riley, it represented everything humanity had been through. Everything they were willing to fight for. "Let's get to work," Riley said, his voice filled with purpose. As the technicians worked furiously to bring the beast back online, Riley couldn't help but feel a strange sense of hope. They were fighting for something bigger than themselves, something greater than just survival. They were fighting for their future, for the future of the human race, and they weren't going to go down without a fight. The hours ticked by as the team worked tirelessly to repair the beast. With each passing minute, the tension in the room grew, but so did their determination. They had no idea if the machine would work, but they knew one thing for sure. They weren't going to let Earth fall without a fight. The Galactic Empire had demanded Earth's surrender, but humanity had made its choice. They would fight, no matter the cost. And in the depths of their most desperate hour, Earth would make its stand. The beast awakens. Time seemed to slow down in the dimly lit hangar. The sounds of hammering and the buzz of welding machines filled the air as the team worked tirelessly to revive the beast. Its massive form loomed in the shadows, a mechanical giant with the scars of age and disuse. The air was thick with tension. No one spoke much. They knew that every second counted, and yet the uncertainty of what they were about to unleash hung over them like a storm cloud. Captain Riley paced back and forth, his boots clicking against the cold metal floor. His mind raced. Could the beast still function? Could it be controlled after all these years? And most importantly, would it be enough to stop the alien invasion? "Captain Riley," said Lieutenant Wells, breaking his train of thought. She stood by the control panel, her face pale but determined. "We're almost there. Just a few more adjustments." Riley nodded, trying to push the doubt from his mind. "Make sure everything is calibrated perfectly. This can't afford to fail." The team had already gone through the beast's schematics 100 times, double-checking every detail, but nothing could prepare them for the real test. The machine had been designed during a time when Earth was in its darkest hour, a time when the very survival of humanity had seemed uncertain. Now they were bringing it back to life, not to fight against human enemies, but against something much worse. "This isn't just about a weapon," Riley muttered to himself. "It's about sending a message." He looked up at the beast, its heavy metal limbs now fully functional. The enormous frame that once stood idle was now beginning to stir. It wasn't just a machine. It was a symbol of the resilience of humanity, a reminder that Earth had faced challenges before and overcome them. This was the last hope, and it was ready to fight. Suddenly, the lights in the hangar flickered, and the room grew quiet. A low hum filled the air as the beast's internal systems powered up. The ground shook slightly as its massive body came to life, its enormous eyes glowing a faint red. The team looked on in awe. No one had seen this level of power in centuries. "It's working," Wells whispered, barely believing what she was seeing. Riley's eyes narrowed. "Don't get too excited just yet. We need to make sure it's operational and ready for combat. If the Empire comes for us now, we need to be prepared." But as the beast came to life, it wasn't just the humans in the room who were noticing. Outside the hangar, the alien fleet was drawing closer. The huge ships loomed in orbit, their dark forms casting shadows over the Earth. They knew something was happening on the planet below. The signals, the sudden surge of energy from the planet, it wasn't something they could ignore. The Galactic Empire's ships had been stationed just out of Earth's atmosphere, watching the planet closely. Their orders were clear. Earth had to be subdued, its people forced into submission. But something was happening now that they hadn't anticipated. Something ancient, something powerful. Inside the hangar, the hum of the beast grew louder, and a warning light began flashing on the control panel. The systems were finally online, but there were still kinks to work out. Wells looked at the flashing lights, her hands trembling slightly as she ran through diagnostics. "Captain, we've got a problem," Wells said, her voice tight. "There's a risk of system overload. The power output is reaching critical levels." Riley stepped closer to the control panel. "What's the worst that could happen?" Wells didn't answer immediately. She knew the beast was capable of immense destruction, but she also knew how unstable it could be. The power levels were fluctuating, threatening to spiral out of control. "Worst-case scenario, we lose the entire facility in a single explosion," Wells said, her voice low. Riley's expression hardened. "We don't have a choice. We need to stabilize it now, or we'll never have a chance to fight back." He turned to the rest of the team. "We need to make this work. Now." The team worked with frantic urgency. They had mere minutes before the beast's systems would overload completely. With a roar of mechanical energy, the massive machine stirred once more. Its limbs moved with a metallic grace, and its chest emitted a low growl, as if it had come alive after centuries of sleep. The massive weapon at its side hummed with dangerous potential. Riley stood back, watching the beast's every move. They weren't just fixing a machine. They were waking the sleeping giant, a weapon born of a darker time. A time when humans had been at war with each other. But now, that power was being focused on something else. An alien force that thought they could just walk in and take over. "Captain," Wells said, her eyes wide with disbelief. "It's stabilized. It's ready." Riley took a deep breath, his heart pounding in his chest. He had no idea if this would work, but it had to. The fate of Earth rested on what came next. He looked around at the team. "We're not just fighting for survival. We're fighting to send a message to every enemy out there. We will never surrender." With that, Riley walked towards the beast. The sound of its metal limbs clanking echoed in the hangar. The machine was ready, and humanity's last stand had begun. The clash of titans. The countdown was barely audible amidst the rising noise of the hangar. The beast's massive frame stood like a dormant god ready to be awakened. Its towering silhouette cast a shadow that seemed to grow longer as time wore on, each second feeling like an eternity. Captain Riley and his team stood frozen in place, the weight of their responsibility pressing down on them. Outside, the alien fleet hovered, seemingly undeterred by the growing tension below. They didn't know it yet, but Earth had just unveiled its final defense, and it was a force unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Riley stood at the control center, his hand hovering over a red button, the final trigger to bring the beast into battle. He looked over at Lieutenant Wells, who was now monitoring multiple screens at once, each one feeding data back from the beast's systems. "Lieutenant, are we clear for launch?" Riley asked, his voice steady, though his heart raced. Wells glanced up from her monitors, her face tense. "Yes, Captain. The beast is online, weapon systems are armed, and the power levels are stable." The word stable felt like a fragile promise, but Riley didn't have time to second-guess it. Outside the hangar, the sound of alien ships maneuvering closer echoed through the walls. The Galactic Empire was making its move, and Earth was ready, or at least it had no choice but to be. Riley took a deep breath and slammed his hand down on the red button. The ground shook as the beast's systems came to full life. The roar of its engines filled the hangar, vibrating the walls and rattling loose equipment from their places. The doors to the hangar began to slowly open, revealing the vast expanse of the outside world. With one last glance at his team, Riley gave a sharp nod. "Let's show them what we've got." As the doors opened completely, The beast stepped forward, its massive legs moving with a precision that belied its enormous size. Its glowing eyes flared as it scanned the skies, seeking out the invaders. Riley's grip on his rifle tightened as the towering machine moved forward into the open field. It was a colossal thing of metal, rusted from age, but alive with the unmistakable purpose of war. Above them, the alien fleet began to break formation, descending toward the Earth below with terrifying speed. Ships of every size and shape hovered in the sky, their gunmetal exteriors gleaming in the distant sunlight. The Empire's commanders had made one crucial mistake. They underestimated humanity. They had no idea what they were walking into. As the beast moved into position, its enormous cannons roared to life, firing massive blasts of energy into the air. The ground below trembled with the force of the impact, and the first alien ship exploded in a flash of blue light. The remaining ships responded quickly, releasing a barrage of weapons that tore through the sky. But the beast was no ordinary weapon. Its massive shields deflected the enemy fire, and it fired back with unrelenting force. The air was filled with the sound of explosions, each one louder than the last. Aliens screamed in their ships, their communications filled with panic as they realized they had bitten off more than they could chew. The beast's weapons were unmatched. Its power was pure devastation, and the invaders were ill-prepared to deal with it. "Captain, they're retreating," Wells shouted, her voice barely audible over the deafening noise. She looked at the screens in disbelief, watching as the once proud alien fleet turned tail and fled, leaving the skies of Earth untouched by their destructive presence. Riley's eyes burned with a mixture of triumph and anger. "We've only just begun." The beast continued its assault, its weapons now locking onto the remaining ships. The sky above Earth was painted with streaks of fire, as alien vessels were torn apart one after the other. No one had expected this, least of all the Empire. They thought humanity would surrender. Instead, they'd awakened the sleeping giant. The alien ships fought back, but the odds were rapidly stacking against them. With every strike from the beast, Earth's defenders grew more confident. The realization hit. The invaders had underestimated humanity, and now they were paying the price. But just as Riley allowed himself a brief moment of relief, an explosion on the beast's left side jolted him out of his reverie. The enormous machine staggered but quickly regained its footing. Riley's heart skipped a beat. "Report," he barked. "Damage to the left hull, Captain," Wells replied urgently. "We've taken a direct hit, but the beast's internal systems are holding. It's still operational." Riley clenched his fists. "They're learning. We need to end this quickly." With a roar, the beast pushed forward, its massive legs propelling it across the battlefield. It became a juggernaut, unstoppable in its wrath. Each step it took reverberated through the Earth. Each strike it delivered sent ripples across the galaxy. The Galactic Empire was beginning to realize that this was not a war they could win. They had provoked humanity. And now, humanity had responded with overwhelming force. The beast was no longer just a weapon. It was a symbol of Earth's resilience. The message was clear. Earth would not be conquered, and no invader would ever set foot on its soil again. The battle raged on, and the beast's fury continued to rain down on the alien fleet. As the invaders scrambled to retreat, Riley knew one thing for certain. Earth had proven that it would never bow down to anyone. Not the Empire, not any alien race. And with the beast leading the charge, the galaxy would soon learn that humanity's wrath was far more terrifying than they could ever have imagined. The tides of war shift. The roar of battle echoed in every corner of the field, the sounds of weapons firing, explosions ringing in the air, and the constant hum of energy shields flickering with every impact. The beast, Earth's greatest weapon, stood at the heart of it all, its enormous metal frame towering above the battlefield like a colossal guardian. But despite its might, Earth's defense was far from over. Captain Riley's grip on his weapon tightened as the alien fleet regrouped. It wasn't over yet. The battle had only just begun. The alien forces had underestimated humanity, thinking they could crush the planet with one swift attack. But now they were learning just how wrong they were. The beast, once thought to be a myth, was real, and it was taking down their ships one by one. The alien commanders, their ships scattered and damaged, regrouped in the skies. Their once unified fleet was now fragmented, and they had no choice but to fight back. But the question on everyone's mind was simple. Would they surrender, or would they push further into a battle they could no longer win? Riley's mind raced as he watched the retreating ships begin to gather, their formation slowly beginning to solidify again. Their engines flared, and for a moment, Riley feared they might launch another assault with even greater force. But instead of running, the aliens were preparing for something far more dangerous. They were calling for reinforcements. "Lieutenant Wells," Riley barked, his voice sharp. "What's their status? Are they planning a counterattack?" Wells was already scanning the monitors, her eyes wide with disbelief. "They've sent a distress signal, Captain. They're requesting reinforcements from the outer reaches of the galaxy. It looks like they're calling in their entire fleet." Riley's heart sank. The battle was far from over. In fact, it had just taken a more dangerous turn. The aliens were not giving up. They were planning on bringing even more firepower to bear on Earth. It wasn't just the beast they were after anymore. It was Earth itself. "We don't have much time," Riley muttered under his breath. He turned to his crew, his voice firm. "Get the beast into a defensive position. We're going to have to hold our ground." Outside, the skies darkened as more and more ships arrived. The shadows of the alien reinforcements blocked out the light, their forms becoming darker and more ominous as they moved into position. The sheer scale of their numbers was enough to make even the most seasoned soldiers pause. This was not just a battle, it was becoming a war. But humanity was not backing down. "Captain, the beast is ready," Wells called out from her station, her voice calm but determined. "We can fight, but we'll need all the support we can get." Riley nodded, steeling himself for what was to come. The beast was Earth's last line of defense, but now, more than ever, the humans aboard it would need to hold strong. It was up to them to prevent the galaxy's conquerors from taking what was not theirs. Earth was under siege, and Riley knew there was no retreat. They had made a stand, and now they would make it count. The first wave of alien ships made their move, charging toward Earth with frightening speed. The beast fired its first shot, sending a ripple of shockwaves across the air as its immense weapons tore into the alien fleet. The impact of each blast caused explosions so massive they could be seen from miles away. But it wasn't enough. The alien forces came in waves, each wave more powerful and relentless than the last. Ships fell, but new reinforcements filled the sky, their numbers seemingly endless. The situation was growing dire. "Prepare for an assault on the beast's core," Riley shouted, realizing they could not afford to sit back and wait for help. "We're taking the fight to them." Without hesitation, Riley and his crew readied the beast's most advanced weapon systems. The beast's defenses were formidable, but if the enemy knew where to strike, it would be vulnerable. Riley ordered the beast to move forward, stomping across the battlefield, its weapons charging up for a devastating counterattack. The first alien ship charged toward the beast with blinding speed, launching a series of missiles aimed directly at its weak spots. Riley watched in anticipation. The missiles hit, but the beast's shields flared to life, absorbing the blasts with incredible force. The impact caused a shockwave, but the beast didn't falter. It was built to withstand punishment. In the blink of an eye, the beast returned fire. Massive energy blasts shot out from its cannons, slicing through the alien fleet with surgical precision. One ship after another disintegrated into flaming debris as the beast continued its relentless assault. Despite the odds, the human forces weren't backing down. They fought with every last ounce of strength they had. Riley, feeling the weight of responsibility bearing down on him, gave one final command. We fight to the end. The alien forces, now realizing that Earth's defense was not to be underestimated, began to retreat. The remnants of their fleet scattered into the void of space, with ships falling behind and struggling to regain formation. It seemed that humanity's resilience had forced them to reconsider their tactics. But Riley knew this was just the beginning. As the skies began to clear, a new sense of urgency grew in the hearts of Earth's defenders. They had won this battle, but the war was far from over. The Galactic Empire would return, and they would need to be ready. "We may have held them off today," Riley said, his voice resolute. "But tomorrow, we prepare for what's coming next." Earth's defenders stood ready, knowing full well that the war was just beginning, and their fight for survival was far from over. The reckoning approaches. The battle had only just begun to fade, but its effects were being felt across the planet. Earth's victory had been hard-earned, and the aftermath was filled with uncertainty. The vast, towering structures of the beast were scared from the fight, and the skies, once clear, now glowed with the distant remnants of the alien ships that had retreated. Humanity had made its mark on the Galactic Empire, but the taste of victory was bitter, because they knew it wasn't over. Captain Riley stood at the command center, his eyes scanning the horizon. The hum of the systems around him seemed almost eerily quiet compared to the chaos of the past few hours. His crew worked diligently, checking the status of the beast and ensuring its systems were intact, but Riley couldn't shake the feeling that something worse was coming. The Empire's retreat was temporary. They had shown their hand, but they would return with vengeance. "Captain, we've received a message from the Galactic Council," Wells reported, interrupting Riley's thoughts. Riley turned sharply. The Galactic Council. After their humiliation in battle, they would dare to speak with Earth. He took a deep breath, trying to keep his composure. "Play it," he ordered. A hologram flickered to life in front of him, revealing a sharp-looking alien figure with an ornate uniform, the insignia of the Galactic Empire boldly displayed. Its voice was cold, filled with authority. "Humanity," it began, its tone laced with contempt. "You may have won this small skirmish, but you have sealed your fate. The Galactic Empire does not tolerate rebellion. Your defiance will be answered in due time. This will not end well for you." The message flickered off, leaving only the silence that followed. The room was heavy with tension as the words of the Alien Council echoed in the minds of everyone present. Riley's hand clenched into a fist, his resolve hardening. He knew they couldn't afford to rest easy. The next attack would come with greater force, greater numbers, and more advanced weapons. "Have they given a timeline?" Riley asked, his voice sharp. "No, Captain," Wells responded, her voice equally serious. "But the tone suggests they'll come for us soon. It's only a matter of time before they regroup." Riley knew this was only the beginning of a much larger conflict. The Galactic Empire would not let this insult go unpunished, and Earth's hidden strength, embodied in the beast and its crew, would become the Empire's new obsession. The war was just beginning, and Riley knew humanity could no longer rely on surprise to win. They had made an impact, but now they needed to prepare for the worst. He turned to face the map of the galaxy displayed on the wall of the command center. The Empire's forces were vast, spreading out across the stars, but Earth had its own cards to play. The beast was only one part of their strategy, but it had proven its worth. Riley had always known humanity had more to offer than the galaxy had realized. Now, he just needed to find a way to channel that potential. "Lieutenant Wells, get me a status on our fleet," Riley said, his voice taking on a more commanding tone. "We've got our forces in place, Captain," Wells replied. "The beast is being rearmed, and we've sent out a call to the rest of Earth's forces for reinforcements. But we'll need more than just firepower. We need to strengthen our defenses and train our forces." "Understood," Riley replied, nodding. "Get me all the intel we can gather on the Empire's next move. And I want our scientists on high alert. I have a feeling this is going to be bigger than anything we've ever seen." The weight of the upcoming conflict pressed down on him. It wasn't just about Earth's survival anymore. It was about proving humanity's place in the stars. They had been underestimated for too long. The Galactic Empire might have thought Earth was an easy target, but now they would find that humanity fought not only with advanced weaponry, but with something the Empire had never anticipated: sheer willpower. As the lights in the command center dimmed, Riley's gaze lingered on the stars visible outside. A war was coming, and there was no turning back now. The next few days were filled with preparation. Earth's fleets worked tirelessly, bolstering their defenses, and the beast itself was reinforced with advanced weaponry and new tactical systems designed to counter the Galactic Empire's ships. Riley and his team knew that they would need every advantage they could get. Earth's warships, once seen as insignificant, were now humanity's best hope for survival. Meanwhile, the Empire, far beyond Earth's reach, had not forgotten the humiliation it suffered. Across its vast fleets, messages were sent. Plans were made. They would make Earth pay for daring to challenge them. And this time, they would not underestimate their enemy. Riley's thoughts kept returning to the Empire's words. They would not let it go. The battle that had begun on Earth's soil would soon spread across the galaxy. It would be a war like no other. The stakes were higher now, and the fight for survival was only just beginning. But Riley was ready. The galaxy had underestimated humanity for too long, and Earth was about to show them just what humanity was capable of. The Empire strikes back. The days following the ominous message from the Galactic Empire felt like an eternity. Riley could sense the tension mounting in the air, even within the safety of Earth's stronghold. Every movement, every decision, felt like it could be the one that either saved humanity or doomed them. Despite the great victory they had won with the beast, the Empire was far from defeated. They were regrouping, recalibrating their forces, and preparing for the storm that was coming. As the hours stretched into days, Riley found himself standing at the observation deck, staring out at the stars. His fingers drummed lightly on the railing as his mind raced. Earth's forces were preparing, but how could they be ready for what the Empire would throw at them? He knew the galaxy's greatest military power would come back with overwhelming force. "Captain," Wells said, approaching him. Her face was serious, and her voice held an edge of urgency. "We've intercepted a transmission from the Empire. They're gathering their fleets. This isn't just a retaliation. They're coming for us with everything they've got." Riley's jaw tightened. He had known this moment was coming, but now that it was here, the gravity of it seemed heavier than ever. "How soon?" "They've already begun deploying," Wells replied, her voice tense. "Their ships are mobilizing. It's going to be a full-scale assault." Riley took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. The calm before the storm was over. Earth had its moment to shine. But now the real test was ahead. Could humanity hold its ground, or would the might of the Galactic Empire crush them? "We have no choice but to fight," Riley said, his voice low but firm. "We'll gather the fleet and prepare for battle. This is it." Within hours, Earth's forces were moving. The beast, repaired and outfitted with new weapons and shields, was ready to join the fight once again. Riley had made the call to assemble every ship, every soldier, and every fighter Earth could muster. The enemy would not know what hit them. He would not allow humanity to be wiped out so easily. Across the vast expanse of space, the Galactic Empire's fleet grew larger by the minute. Thousands of ships, each one more powerful than anything Earth had ever encountered, were heading straight for their planet. There was no turning back now. The fight was inevitable. Riley stood before his team in the command room, his gaze fixed on the star maps that illuminated the walls. His heart pounded as he addressed the crew. "The Empire's fleet is massive, but we've got something they don't have: unity and determination. We've already fought back once, and we'll do it again. Every ship, every soldier, every civilian will be part of this fight. No one gets left behind." His words resonated with the crew. They had all seen the destruction the Empire was capable of, and the thought of surrender was unimaginable. This fight was for Earth's future, for the freedom of their home. Everyone knew what was at stake. As the first waves of the Empire's fleet appeared on the horizon, Riley's pulse quickened. This was no longer a skirmish. This was war. The space above Earth lit up with the glow of distant stars, their ships casting shadows over the planet. The sheer size of the approaching fleet was enough to send a chill down anyone's spine. Riley stood at the helm of the Beast, looking out into space with a steely determination. The Beast's cannons hummed to life, its massive form dwarfing the smaller ships in Earth's fleet. The crew, ready for the fight of their lives, awaited the command. The first shots rang out as the Empire's ships opened fire, their weapons cutting through the vacuum of space toward Earth. Riley didn't flinch. "Return fire," he ordered, his voice steady. The sound of weapons firing and explosions echoed through the command center as the battle for Earth began in full force. The Empire's ships were relentless, firing barrages of missiles and energy blasts. But Earth's forces weren't backing down. The Beast's advanced systems proved to be more than a match for the enemy's firepower. Earth's smaller ships flanked the larger vessels, striking from unexpected angles, and the full might of humanity's fury was unleashed in a series of devastating counterattacks. The battle raged on for hours. Each side suffered heavy losses, but the fight was far from over. Despite the enormous size of the Empire's forces, Earth's resistance was unwavering. Riley knew this was a fight to the death, and it was far from over. The first wave might have been stopped, but the Empire's true strength was yet to be revealed. As the battle entered its final stages, Riley could feel the pressure mounting. His crew was exhausted, and the Beast had taken more damage than they had hoped, but they had held their ground. The Galactic Empire's retreat was imminent, but it wouldn't be long before they regrouped and launched another offensive. Riley knew they couldn't afford to let their guard down. "We've stopped their advance for now," Riley said, watching as the Empire's retreating ships blinked out of view. "But don't think for a second that they'll give up. This war is just beginning." He turned to Wells, his eyes filled with resolve. "Prepare for the next wave. We're not just going to defend Earth. We're going to make sure the Empire knows that humanity cannot be defeated. Not now, not ever." The fight was far from over. The next battle was on the horizon, and Earth would be ready.